My name is Ekia. I'm very ashamed to say this, but I have been cheating on my husband for many years, and right here is my broken pen. It was on my 30th birthday, it hit me that my biological clock is ticking. This thing.
She saw her breast fall just a little bit.
It gets women. I have spent the last 7 years of my life shagging my boyfriend, Frank. Frank, you see him. With no sense of direction as to where our relationship was headed. I loved him with all my heart, into brackets, and still do to this very day. As she's stepping his broken pen. But I had to let him go. I had to move on with my life and needed to find myself a good and responsible man who was ready to settle down with me. That's when my husband came into the picture. My husband and I have been happily married for 5 years with a beautiful 4-year-old daughter.
Why did they do this kind of thing?
Did I say happily? Well, it certainly isn't a happy one for me at the moment. I still have deep feelings for Frank and do see him once in a while whenever I get horny.
For oil change, you know, the engine has to be oiled.
This has been going on for the past 5 years. Though I'm so ashamed to admit this abomination. I'm glad you know it's an abomination. Exactly a year ago, my husband got laid off from work and spent a quarter of the year looking for a job. Luckily for us, he had invested very well in my clothing business. Like, he invested in her clothing business, which was doing well and sustaining the family.
But he did not know.
He then purchased a car and became a full-time Uber driver. My shameful story actually began when I told my husband I was traveling to Dubai for the weekend to get some clothes to restock my shop. Uncharacteristic of him, he drove me to the airport that Saturday morning. I insisted he drop me off at the entrance.
As a good husband.
A good husband, not to bother coming in.
May
I
no
blew him a
pay
kiss
charges.
like that.
May no pay for parking fee.
Let me just go. Close the door and walk to the entrance. I turned around while I watched him drive off. He had no idea. My Dubai trip was actually a getaway weekend with my Franco. She started mine.
Engine oiling.
She started mine. I waited for Frank's call for a little while. Hence, my delay at the airport. I finally got through to him. So, quote unquote. So hey, I'm sorry, I think that's Frank. Hey, I'm sorry, I got caught up in an impromptu Zoom meeting. Kindly request an Uber to my place. I'll pay. I'm really sorry. He said, we don't know where this is going. I got one just 5 minutes away. A rather familiar Toyota Vitz car number. Must probably be an Uber I've taken before, I thought. It didn't click. Okay. Before I could think of checking the details of the driver, Frank called to follow up if I had managed to get an Uber, and I said yes. So my ride arrived. And out of excitement and anticipation, I put my things in the back seat of the car and picked the call from Frank while I said to update him. As I sat in the back seat of the car, I realized the insides of the car looked quite familiar as well. Girl, don't you know your husband's car?
God works in very mysterious ways. Oiling gone wrong.
So now this is a conversation. This is what she was telling Frank, yeah? She said, I got an Uber. I'm on my way to see you. I've missed you, I said to Frank on the phone. But for about a minute, I realized the car was not moving. I put the phone down and decided to prompt the driver. That's when I froze.
With so much patience. Man did not even trip.
The Uber driver was none other than my very own husband. He turned and looked at me with teary eyes. How could you do this to me, Ekia? I was super shocked.
Magic.
I could not even cry nor beg him. I could utter no words at all.
Zero.
He then turned and started the trip. Nobody said a word on our way. My mind was racing with thoughts the whole time. What do I do? Where is he taking me to? What's he going to do? I felt uneasy at the
I hope
back.
the man
Now
dropped
confused.
her inside the guy's house.
I'm coming. I'm coming. I finally gathered the courage to utter some words to him. I'm sorry. That's what she said. Okay, good. He did not say a word or give a reaction in any way. We got to our destination.
Man's got all the patience in the world.
And he said as he looked into the mirror, I don't want to see the person you're visiting. I'd like to see him. At first, I did not want to, but later thought it was pointless covering up since I had already been caught.
I'm sure she go pay the ride. All this things, I'm sure she go pay the ride.
So I called Frank to come out, and he did immediately. Frank was waiting, ready. The moment I stepped out of the vehicle to meet Frank,
was like this.
My husband stepped on the accelerator and sped off. I was left behind with a million questions in my head and 1,000 ounces of remorse. If it could be measured, I burst into uncontrollable tears as I explained everything that happened to Frank. She was explaining to Frank.
Even our clothes were still inside the car.
Still inside the car. It's not she just moved.
Nice.
I gathered all the courage I could as I went home that evening to face my husband. I got home to a dark house with all the lights put out. I saw his car parked outside, so I certainly knew he was home. I finally found him sitting at the dining table with a candle in the middle.
Batman.
And a glass of water in front of him. Don't put on the light, he said.
Yes.
Come have a seat. I want to ask you a question.
Sit at the table. What's your proposal?
I politely sat down and he said,
I'm Batman.
This candle flame represents the spark in our marriage. I'm going to ask you a question before I put out the flame. I also have in
this man is theatrical too.
A glass of water.
For the paracetamol you're going to chop.
And a glass of water. And you and I both know who is going to drink it. I sat back in the chair sweating like a fish. My end is here. This is it. He took a deep breath and asked, is Yolanda our daughter?
The beginning. That's the one we'll start with.
That's the first thing. Is Yolanda our daughter? I immediately started to burst out into tears.
Benny,
Answer me, woman, he screamed at me.
Normally now, all these things cannot make conversation. How am I talking to you and next thing you're doing is crying?
You're crying.
Why are you crying?
Women just play victims. Too much.
Yeah, the one that has been cheating fire you.
For 5 years.
I'm here to almost kill myself. And off our marriage. I'm asking you a question, you're crying.
No, she isn't. I said while crying out my lungs.
Wait, what?
The child is not for the man. At least there's one child. What of those women? 3, 5, not the man's child. I could immediately feel the tension in the room. I was ready to drink that glass of poison and end my life.
Yes, guy, man, for don't take that and sip.
For I deserve to die. Oh.
I beg you.
He then says something.
After all the oiling.
Oh, I love you, Ekia. I really did.
Aww.
Right after he took the glass of water and drank it, I shouted and tried to stop him, but it was too late. He then put out the candle and dropped to the floor. Unfortunately, I made it to the hospital, but late. Girl, upon all this, you still made you. Let's just give a benefit of the doubt. It was traffic. Now, let me finish. The doctor came out of the emergency unit, looked at me and shook his head. What is it, doc? Did my husband make it? He looked at me sternly, then said, your husband took an overdose of a combination of antidepressant drugs, and it caused some serious brain and lungs damage. He will survive, but he'll be half dead for the rest of his life. This is my broken pen, and I'm living with this guilt for the rest of my life. Girl, your pen is not broken, it's shattered, it's crushed.